Welcome to the next episode of the Monochrome Podcast. Oh, I'm so excited. I love these podcast episodes. I love recording them. I love going back to listen to them to hear what the team is talking about. And I love seeing the comments and discussions that happen from the community that listens. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of the conversation. We're so excited you're here. It's going to be a great episode. We're talking about products that are in our carts that we're really interested in buying. We're talking about some hot takes, some debates on what's going on in the world. And then we've got a wonderful interview with Lauren Sloat, aka Fleurie, one of my top favorite artists. So I can't wait to share that with y'all. But let's kick things off right off the bat here. Keith, you have a very, I want to say versatile, very probably needed product in your cart right now. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Number one, it's great to be on the podcast. I know it's been a couple episodes.
Welcome
You've been
back.
missing my voice. I'm here.
The sultry sounds of Keith.
Exactly. But this product is a mini projector. And you may be asking, Keith, why would you have a mini projector in your cart? Well, I have children. But not only do I have children, but I also have experience in the church to know why this might be useful maybe to you. If you work in a kids or a student ministry, one of the biggest problems is all the cords that go into projector and the fear that somebody's going to rip one out, going to mess everything up. You don't want to have
inputs,
to set up
the outputs, the settings on your laptop. Yes.
Exactly. You've got to like purpose a computer for that projector a lot of times when you need it for other things. So I found a little mini projector. It has Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. It displays in 4K and 1080p. It is highly portable and it is rotatable by 180 degrees. So
nice.
It can do all kinds of things. Its flexibility is its strength. I don't know what the picture is like on this thing, but what I can tell you is that it is only $89.99. So it is
on
worth
Amazon.
taking a risk on, right? It's worth just getting one, using it somewhere that you might need it. It may come in handy in so many different ways, but in my opinion, this is something that would be a great just get it, see how you can use it. It may end up being a game changer for those moments in which you are not doing the typical church event structure where you do something in a room where there may not be a whole lot of audio, video opportunities.
I saw these go viral around Christmas, and I immediately thought of the women's and men's Bible studies who, sometimes get kicked into the smaller rooms that don't have the technology, or maybe they need to face a different direction from like the tech setup in the room. And I thought that is a brilliant solution. These little mini projectors, easy to use. People are using these just in their homes too for like little movie nights or, ambience on the wall. So I feel like these are a great solution for those little pop-up things that happen for church, for sure.
Love it. Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
I saw these go viral in the holidays. The other thing that I feel like kind of went a tad viral for me, at least during the social media hours that I'm on my phone, the Grammys this year. Got to bring this up.
Let's talk about it.
AI, as we know, is a super trending topic. But at the Grammys, there was an AI-nominated album and song, both from the Beatles. And it sparked the question, should AI art be allowed to win awards? And we're talking like the awards. We're talking Grammys. And if it's allowed in the Grammys, it's going to be allowed in the Oscars. And it's going to be allowed anywhere. Like they set the tone, I feel like, for our country of what means quality, or at least they used to. That's debatable. But hot take, should AI be allowed to win awards? Where do you stand on this, Keith?
I'm going to just straight up say no. Okay, so I, number one, will really draw the line at the Oscars, even though I don't care about award ceremonies in general, but I do love people that have great gifts and abilities to write, compose, to shoot.
Reminder, Keith is our movie buff here, so you're getting into
movies.
His passion. Yes.
Absolutely. And I just think that at the end of the day, you want to know, just like all the other nominees had many different stages that art or that song, movie, whatever it is, had to go through in order to get to completion where it is now nominated and been given these accolades.
Yeah.
It's not fair that there's some that are not really going through all that. It's just maybe one person who has a great gift for prompting AI
Yeah.
But should it be competing alongside human-made music and movies from start to finish?
I'm going to come on the opposite side of this discussion, and I'm going to say it's another form of technology. You wouldn't say that this new updated camera, like HD cameras, 4K cameras, those were new at one point. They had never been used. And were they changing the creativity of people? That's a whole discussion. But I think AI is just another tool of technology, and it takes creativity and knowledge to figure out how to use AI correctly and well. So I don't think anything fully AI should be nominated or be able to win these kind of awards, but I do think you can use AI as a tool. This reminds me of the Brad Zimmerman webinar that we had where he taught us about AI, and he's like, it is a tool. It is not meant to do it all for you. That shouldn't be how you use it. And so I think if it is used as a tool, it can be a part of winning awards. But again, it won't be about AI. It's still about the human creativity to make it happen. So I would push back a little there.
Give them their own category. Let them compete against themselves. Let it be its own kind of genre, and they have to compete against each other and not against somebody else doing a different type. So anyway.
Well, I'm sure in your churches and on your teams and your office, you're maybe having the same conversations lately about AI, and hopefully it's all peaceful. You can agree to disagree with your coworkers if need be. I know our team will continue to talk about this as stuff with AI comes up and how we use it. We got some wizards who totally understand AI, ChatGPT, how to use it to do their jobs better. And then we got some of us who are like, no, we don't want to touch it. We want our own creativity to always be at the forefront and not use it as a tool, but completely us so we don't become reliant. So there's a little bit of a mix in our office.
And let me go on the record. I do love AI. I use it all the time. It's a fantastic tool.
But it needs its own category.
Keep it in the box.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to talk about someone who is amazing in terms of creativity and beauty and who creates amazing art. I am so excited about our interview today. It is with Fleurie, or Lauren Sloat, as her actual or real name is. But she is a musician under the artist name Fleurie. She has done some amazing stuff. She went viral a few years back for an amazing song, Linkin Park, In the End. She did a remake with Tommee Proffitt. So if you know her, it's probably by that song. But she has gone viral for a few songs that she's done. She's just a hugely successful artist. But she is starting to do worship music under her name, Lauren Sloat. And we had her at SALT this past year, did an interview, and I'm so excited to share that with you. Luke and then Joe Angel, one of our SALT founders, who is really close with Lauren as well, they were both able to sit down and have a conversation with her about creativity and art and worship and her time at SALT. So please jump in, take a listen.
All right, so we are here at SALT Conference, and this is an exciting interview because we've known each other, but I actually have never sat. You guys
and chatted,
You
Her
guys
and I
know each other
work together.
Well. Yeah.
You and I work together,
and so this is really fun. So
yes, so
Lauren
happy to be here.
Sloat, Fleurie, that's incredible. So walk us through a little bit of your career, kind of how you got into what you're doing now, the Fleurie side, and then I'd love to kind of see where it is on the horizon.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in Michigan in a suburb of Detroit, and I moved to Nashville right after college, now back in 2012, and knew that I was wanting to do something in the music industry, hoping to do something in the music industry, and just open for what God had. And I somehow ended up in this very niche part of the music industry called sync. We call it, like, stands for synchronization, TV and film licensing, where artists, independent artists, usually unsigned artists, write songs for use in TV shows, underscoring scenes, also trailers, promos, anything that there's a visual that they need music for.
I mean, this isn't just commercials. This is like...
No, this is like TV shows. This is, perfect example.
Like the sappy scene of
Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is great to say because that's literally where her music has been featured.
Get out.
Is on Grey's Anatomy.
Yes, that was a big one for us. We had a season finale last season, and this song that has been a huge deal in their show by Snow Patrol, Chasing Cars. My friend Tommee Proffitt and I did a cover of it, and we actually finished the cover of it for another project, a covers project we were doing like a week before we got an email saying they're looking for this list of covers. And one of them was Chasing Cars. And he just calls me. He's like, I turned it in. And we got it. And I was like sobbing when I saw it because it was an amazing placement. But yeah.
And
so
you said earlier, like this whole sync industry or this whole like, film score stuff for television shows and all that has kind of like really changed the game for licensing and publishing.
Totally.
Because it's like a whole new thing.
It's totally different than artists getting a record deal and just making albums and touring them. It's like you're writing to individual briefs all the time.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times your songs don't land in the thing you were pitching to, which is kind of amazing. So you'll write something to a brief for Grey's Anatomy and it gets in Station 19, another show or whatever.
Because is it the same people placing these songs?
A lot of times, yeah. And a lot of times the briefs are similar, and there's a certain writing style to where you want it to feel like you're really just conveying an emotion and you're not painting too many pictures with your lyrics because the scene is painting the picture.
Well, she mentioned Tommee Proffitt. I want to touch on that a little bit because, she's talking about sync and then unsigned artists and things like that. But people may not know a name or anything, but there's a lot of success that has happened with Tommee and the collaboration there. And I point out Tommee because Tommy's been part of Salt. He did our big opener last year. So people may be familiar with his name, but there's also a lot of familiarity between Tommee and Fleurie, the side of things because of the collaboration. And, just to brag a little bit on that, in the end really changed years in Tommy's life because it was over 75 billion streams on the song Linkin Park.
Billion.
Yes.
So you're like the most famous artist that we don't realize we've heard.
From one song.
But, it's been cool to see that growth there, but then also Tommee being a part of here and
the partnership with Tommee was such an organic thing that like we just got put together at a sync camp where we get a bunch of writers together for a week to write all these songs for shows and just had so much fun making trailer music together. And neither of us had ever made that specific type of trailer music. This was back in maybe 2015 or so. And so we just kept working together and then both developed these very cinematic brands kind of almost accidentally, just doing what we were asked to do. And then being like, we actually really love doing this.
All right, let's talk about the name, Fleurie.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So I just chose that to kind of save my given name for a future worship project, which I always...
very intentional.
Yeah. I had actually an amazing mentor in college. I did Hillsong College over in Sydney, and Brooke Ligertwood kind of like mentored me for the last semester maybe of college.
Quite the mentor.
I know. It was mind-boggling to 19-year-old me who was like, it was crazy. But she, does her pop stuff, or I would say her mainstream stuff under Brooke Fraser, her former given name, before she was married. And she at the time said, I think if you want to do like a pop project or something that's not distinctly worship, it'd be really wise to pick a different name. Because then when you're part of a church someday in the States and they do worship inevitably, you'll be able to just be Lauren.
And it would create market confusion with your fans and the cinematic music, and all of a sudden this like worship music.
And Joe Angel and I talked about this a lot with my church, The Belonging Company, starting to put out some music that I was featured on. And we were like, we kind of wanted my Fleurie fans to like hear these songs,
that music.
But we didn't want the whiplash of like this cover of Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Right.
And then the next day it's like Holy, Holy, Holy. And you're like,
how do we market
happening?
This playlist doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Spotify's like, what do we do with this? Is Lauren? This is Fleurie. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Totally.
Exactly.
But that's been the connection there, is being able to work with Lauren as her manager and help, be gratefully a part of that. And that's kind of what we are talking about, is how do we divide the Fleurie and Lauren? And, and we're starting to see now things pick up with the Lauren stuff, with the Belonging and opportunities to start leading places and stuff.
So what does the future look like? Sounds like you're starting to sort of drum up this Lauren Sloat thing.
I mean, I'm more so just open to it in a different way, I think. I just felt it on my heart end of last year, actually. I felt the Lord just really pressing on my heart this invitation of like, I would love if you would just write more songs for me. And I think that includes both getting in the secret place and writing songs like unto the Lord in a way where you're not bringing your phone in to record and you're just worshiping in your house basically. And I hadn't realized that life had just gotten so busy that I wasn't prioritizing that for a while. I was worshiping so much at church and so many services and things that I would come home and just kind of turn on the TV. And so it started, it's kind of starting in that drawing and knowing that he wants to use me in the worship space, but knowing he has his own time and way of doing that and that it will just kind of happen when it's time. So I'm definitely excited to like lean into that and see what happens.
I love that started with a spirit of how do you do it for you? It's not something you're trying to ship out. It's not like, hey, we've got this deadline. We're going to release an album. And so I need to write 12 songs or 18 so it gets a good 12, right?
Right.
It sounds like there's more of a, let's just write something that's coming from my heart for me.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe one day that turns into something. I don't know if there's an album in the works or if it's more of just let's just see where God takes this.
Yeah. We don't have an album in the works at the moment. But I've been just saying yes to a lot more rights worship wise with different friends in that sphere. And also like something that has been challenging me has been, I think it was Stephanie Gretzinger. I was watching an interview that she did with someone and she was talking about ministering to the Lord. And I hadn't really ever, for some reason, like had a revelation of that. I won't say I had never heard those terms, but I think sometimes like we think of God, and this is true, as God does not need us. He's in perfection. He's fully happy. He's complete without relationship with us. However, he still longs for us to worship because it ministers to him. It moves his heart. And so like we get so much out of worship, which is incredible, but I don't even think of it as like, I do this for me. It's more of like what I would, do for like my husband, like make him his favorite dinner or whatever to like sort of minister to him or give to him something of value. And I just really trust that like from that place, there will be songs that God will highlight to me and say, okay, this actually is meant to be a tool for more people to step into that space. And then some of them aren't.
I also love there's something beautiful, Lauren, about the story you're telling, that it's almost like the inverse. Like I feel like some people like grow up in the church, they are worship leaders or whatever, and they're like, I'm just waiting for my big break to get out. And here you are, you've had this big break and you're like, I'm waiting for the right songs to release to the church. I mean, what a neat inverse sort of mentality. What would you say to someone who may be listening to this and is thinking, well, Lauren, I'm 19. I want to move to Nashville and, do something in the music industry. And now you're a few years past that sort of crossroads when you move to Nashville, sync licensing was done well. You're now really starting to enter this place of going, Lord, how can I create worship from my heart for you, just for you? What do you encourage that young Lauren?
Yeah. I mean, hearing you say everything you just said had my wheels turning of like, well, I just turned 34. And like, if you talked to me at 24, I was definitely in a different place,
Yeah.
I am by nature like a very goals oriented achiever personality. Like if I'm doing laundry, I'm like, how fast can I get this done? Like no one's watching, but like I gotta achieve something.
Like NASCAR race.
Yeah.
Bit change laundry.
Dude, I know. So it's definitely a wrestle that I've faced. And it's obviously very easy to say, okay, like you said, like you've tasted some success and you've realized like that is never going to fill any sort of void in you, or it's never going to complete you or make you, it's not even going to really like sustain your self-confidence or something like that. All comes from the Lord. So I guess I would say to like the 19-year-old in my shoes, just really like go all out, like go all in with the Lord, like just cash all your chips in, bet fully on him and learn how to hear his voice, hear what he's saying to you. He might say, go get a job at Kroger. And that's where you're going to meet someone who's going to produce all the music, like he's not in the business of just like denying people their dreams and being like, psych, everyone else gets their dream, but you don't. But he always seems to do things backwards. Yeah. And if you're convinced that like, how it's going to happen, you probably are going to maybe just prolong that season of it not happening.
Yeah. Well, to go off of that question, I would like to ask like how with your songwriting process, and because you've had songs that are successful, and then songs that you've gotten rid of, that you didn't even touch. Like, what is your process in that? What you feel is strong, or feel like this is not it? To go off of that, what people might want to know on that.
Yeah, I rely very heavily on people I trust around me to give input.
Yeah.
Not a large group, but like, I actually don't trust myself. Like, I'll have a song that I'm like, this is incredible. Like, this has got to be one of the best things I've written. And my husband will come home from, being at a friend's house or being somewhere, and he's like, no, it's cool. And I'm like, no, like, it's a hit song. And he's like, I don't know if it's like a hit. And then there's something else that I'm just like noodling on that I have no intention of even voice noting.
Yeah.
And he comes running in. What is this? And it's always been that way. It was my sister when I was like young.
Yeah.
She would come in and tell me, like, she's very good at taking something like clay on the wheel and shaping it. And I'm more of a like, just throw paint at a canvas type person. And so she would come into like our family room, and be kind of like, well, what about this chorus? But then instead of that verse, like, what about that verse from that other song? And she'd be helping me like piece things. So I really do.
Yeah.
I need that. And when I'm making a record, I need some form of A&R, even if it's like the producer working on it.
Yeah.
What is that like when you have poured yourself out into a song? You think it's this hit.
It's
I'm
horrible.
just sitting here going, and Jordan walks in and goes,
No, it's absolutely horrible.
yeah, it's okay. Like,
And he's very kind, but like, he's not going to lie to me and
Yeah.
act like
Yeah.
it's,
well, I'm sitting here thinking about people listening or watching this saying, yeah, like I get that on a regular basis. Like, walk me through maybe just a second of like the process you go through to know that like what you made is not something you need to fight for, but grow from if it's not the right thing.
It's really hard, especially
because you want to get defensive as an artist and be like, no, like, can I explain to you why
She
this
does.
is so good?
I do. And I think that's important because you don't want to get to the point where you don't fight for anything and you're just like, nothing that I can't trust myself at all, my taste at all. Like, but I don't know. I think it's just hard not to be precious with things, but you have to.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking back to like, I probably spent 2 years co-writing regularly after signing this publishing deal, like right after I moved to Nashville, having no clue like what I had really just signed.
Mm-hmm.
And I would cry almost after every co-write because it wouldn't end up with anything that I was like really into. And it wasn't until I met a few people like Tommee that shifted. So all I can say is like, stay in the game, like keep writing, keep looking for new collaborators, keep being open to who he's going to send your way, because those things can be a game changer.
I had a friend who actually made a comment that when he was in his 20s, he said, all I wanted was to be right. Something shifted in his 30s. He said, I don't want to be right. I want it or the project to be right.
Yeah.
And I think there is this sort of humility and this professionalism that happens at some point in your career. I don't necessarily think it's a numerical 20 to 30 shift, but I think there's something happens that you go, I need the credit versus, hey, professional creative here or whatever you're going to say, like something has shifted and you go, I just want this to be right. And so I'm trusting, and it's got to be the right voices that you trust, that love you and not just want to like celebrate you and sort of get whatever out. But yeah, there's got to be encouragement in a safe space to go, I think you can do better, right? We've heard the stories of like Adele and like her whole album being thrown out.
And then, Coldplay too had that.
Well, it's funny that you say that because I feel like that's actually how her and I started. We started working.
You were just the person who said this sucks?
Totally.
I would have had 3 Lauren Sloat albums out already, but J.A. threw them all out.
But, I came in just simply because her husband Jordan and I are great friends. And he's like, hey, I just want you to come talk to Lauren and just hear her out. And we were not working together at that point. And I just came in and listened to her. And I asked, at this point, not to give myself credit, but it was just more like the questions she needed to hear in that timing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it revived what she was not feeling at that moment anymore.
Right.
But it was because of that one meeting. And so to go off what you're saying, then that changed things in that moment of feeling burnt out or wanting to give up on a project and stuff. I'm like, no, let's get this out to the world.
So
feeling supported.
In this vein of like getting better at things and sort of improving craft, I want to ask one last question before we kind of wrap up. Our community is really big about practical teaching or things that like we can take home and we know we can implement it tomorrow.
Yeah.
you've been in countless co-writes. It sounds like you've written countless songs, some that have seen the light of day, some that haven't. You have explored, you've dreamt, you've been curious. In your sort of experience of being what I'd call a professional creative in that vein, what is like the one thing that you go, man, when I understood this, it unlocked something for my songwriting? Whether that's a tool, a technique, an approach, a chord structure, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think when Tomlin learned the chord C, like it unlocked everything for him. But you get where I'm going with this, right? Like, what is something that's practical that you would give someone who is a songwriter?
Yeah.
Hey, when I understood this, or when I discovered, what would that be?
I think it would honestly be that even if you think of yourself as an internal processor, you need to, when you're by yourself and when you're co-writing, just let the ideas flow for quite a while before you let the critical side of your brain enter, you know? The best is to look for people that you already feel that comfortable with. But that's just been like a game changer for me. So sometimes if I'm in a write where maybe I don't feel fully comfortable to just like blurt out every idea I have, good, bad, and ugly, I'll just type them all out. So I'll pull up my notes, you know, and just go, and I write like 5 different verse ideas and I voice memo them while the guy's working on building the track or whatever. But it's like, it's been through so many things that and so many songwriters will relate to this, that I've started with the statement, okay, not this, but then whatever I say following that, they go, no, exactly that. And like, I thought it was cheesy or dumb or not worded well. And they're like, no, that's genius. That's the song. So it's like just not being afraid to just say anything that comes. And, you know, sometimes people will there'll be crickets because they're like, it's not great. And you're like, or you just keep talking and just kind of keep letting the faucet run until something great comes out.
I love that.
And I love that in that you have been, when you come with this song or you go into a session, I've noticed that you can go into a session because you're going to write for a Fleurie thing and you come out like, actually, it's turned out for this.
Right.
And she's been open to like, we were writing for Lauren stuff and it's not either of these, it's for them.
Right. But it's just like a great song was starting to emerge. And instead of squelching it and saying, no, like we plan to make this today, we just let it live. And then, it's awesome.
That's amazing. Lauren, thank you for your time.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Thank you for sharing your story with our community. If people want to find you or connect with you, where would you recommend them to go?
Let's see. I'm on all the streaming platforms as Fleurie, Fleurie. It's annoying. You'll never be able to spell it, but it's fine. And also as Lauren Sloat, there's a couple of songs and my handles are just at Fleurie Music and at Lauren Sloat.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome conversation with Lauren, aka Fleurie. We love her. I hope one day you can come to SALT and meet her in person. Hopefully she'll be back for another year or another couple years because she is one of our favorite people now. But thank you for joining us today and for being part of this episode.
Hey, thank you.
Yes, thank you. We're loving that you're here and part of these conversations. And we want to make sure that you get everything we talked about today. So if you need to reference something specifically or check something out that we mentioned, go to the show notes, click those links. You can learn more about our guests, our sponsors, and how to get plugged in with SALT Community. Also, make sure to subscribe to the podcast. Keith's mom, huge fan, subscribes.
Big fan.
She shares it with friends. She listens to every episode. And most importantly, most helpful for us, besides sharing with friends, she gave us a 5-star rating.
Yes, of course.
That means a lot. Thank you, Keith's mom. Yeah. She's an avid listener and we love it. Next week, we will be hearing from Darius L. Carter. He was another speaker at SALT this past year. He had the honor of doing the picture that was used for Oprah's famous portrait. So if you want to hear from his experience, a little bit about his photography, life, and his tips and skills, join us for next week's episode. It's going to be really good. But thanks for being here. We'll see you next week.